done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, the only thing we owe them.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk 2. The title of our broadcast tonight is I Beg Your Pardon. I'm here with Sister Azima and myself, and everyone in the chat. Realize that you guys are part of the show. So the more you comment, the more you engage with us, the more you will help the show and help our conversation and more like-minded. And even if you disagree with our take on it, explain your disagreements on why you disagree with our take. Because the more that we discuss it, the more that we will get a better and clear understanding of why President Biden decided to pardon his son Hunter, I'll say in the 35th hour, after years of saying, well, definitely the last 2 years of saying that he would never pardon his son. His son was found guilty for a gun charge and some, I think, credit card stuff, and he faced up to 20 years. It was a plea bargain agreement arranged, and then United States Attorney took the plea bargain away, and he still pleaded guilty. And President Biden gave him a very interesting pardon, and we'll read the pardon in 1 second. What's up, Sister Azima? Oh, she dropped on us. But I'm going to read the pardon until she comes back, you guys. Unfortunately, she dropped. And I'll read the pardon real quick so we could discuss it when she gets back. And here we go. It says, statement from President Joe Biden. Today, I signed a pardon for my son, Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word even as I watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser. People are almost never brought into trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions but paid them subsequently with interest and penalties are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. The charges in his case came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom, with a number of my political opponents in Congress taking credit for bringing political pressure on the process. Had the plea deal held, it would have been fair, reasonable resolution in Hunter cases. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion that Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. In trying to break Hunter, they tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. For my entire career, I have followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. I believe in the justice system, but I have wrestled with this. I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it has led to a miscarriage of justice. And once I made the decision this weekend There was no sense in delaying the further. I hope Americans will understand why a father and president will come to this decision. This is the full pardon, and this is the part that we're really going to discuss. A full unconditional pardon for those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014, this is when President Biden was the vice president, through December 1st, 2024, a 10-year blanket of carte blanche, basically. So, hold on, you guys. Sister Azima's back. So, Sister Azima, I read the major portion of his statement and why he feels still that his son deserved this pardon. And what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is that presidential, they're called congressional pardons. They started in 1795 with George Washington, and they're in the United States Constitution as Article 2, Chapter 2. And in that, it basically says there are four types of pardon. There are four types of reciprocities: a pardon, amnesty, commutation, and reprieve. So the pardon is the one that allows you to regain all of your civil liberties and to be excluded or exempted from any form of punishment. And amnesty does the same thing, but it only works for certain classes of people. And I don't mean ethnic classes or races. A class could be a group of engineers or scientists or doctors or lawyers or cooks or teachers or people who work somewhere. That's a class. The commutation means that they can commute your sentence early and let you out, but they don't restore all of your liberties. And then the reprieve is just a temporary delay of having to go to jail, receive the sentencing and some form of punishment or some form of punishment. I would have to say, in my opinion, with Joe Biden's history in terms of passing certain laws that directly affected melanated skinned people, copper toned people, brown folks, he was very clear in these three strikes you're outlaws, these very draconian methods of keeping us in there to do 95% of the sentence, whether you're innocent or not. And the mere fact that his son, on many occasions, while he was vice president, held a job that he had no experience in holding. He sat on the board of Burisma that dealt with energy, and he has no background, no knowledge in anything about industry at all. And he would often let his father know people are not responding the way they should, and he took advantage of his position as the vice president under Obama. And then when he became president, his son continued that. And then we don't know exactly everything that's on the laptop because it was not privy to the public. But we do know that he falls under the same umbrella as Epstein, or Kelly, Diddy, Ghislaine, Maxwell, and then himself. And the mere fact that he thought he was scrubbing his records the way Hillary Clinton did hers, it didn't turn out that way. And the people that had his device, his laptop, ended up turning it over to the government because there was a lot of nefarious information on there that was absolutely incriminating. Of course, they were only able to get him on the gun charges and some forms of the drug charges, and maybe some money laundering. If he had gone into jail or served any time, under the new administration, the Department of Justice would have to go back and review everything that was on that laptop. And that becomes a problem. That's very dangerous. And you can't have that, especially after what the Democratic Party has done to him. I mean, they forced him out. Let's be real. And they didn't do it very nicely. We don't know what conversations were held, but everyone knew when he came into this position that he was in decline, okay, intellectual decline. And so to put him in there with a person that isn't even astute in any form of law was a recipe for disaster. Okay. And then if you just look at his family history, just the family history, I mean, it comes under a lot of shady things. Um, his first wife died in an automobile accident, and one of his children. The babysitter at that time was Jill, the lady he married. That was his second wife. His oldest son passed away, and Hunter moved in with his daughter, with his sister in law. And there was a lot of stuff going on there, so much so that she sued him, shut down a lot of stuff on him. It was ugly, the first wife and the second wife. However, when all this was going on and people brought it to Joe's attention and Jill, they smiled and said they support it because they're in love. Um, so when you see that type of family dynamics that's gone totally unaccounted for, even in the public view, I would say karma came and got him, and he's trying to make sure nothing else happens. Because let's be realistic, he's in his total decline. Nobody's going to put him in prison. He's already been excommunicated from the Democratic Party. But his son could really face time. He's in his 50s. He's still somewhat healthy. If he got in there, the prison would be a horrible place for him to be.
And that was my one of my takes was I think a lot of people, and I appreciate everybody who has given commentary on the issue. I think a lot of people think that this is a Democrat Republican issue. It's not a Democrat Republican issue. This is something that's going on within the Democratic Party, and it even underscores what he said in his statement when we don't. You get people that try to compare his situation with what's going on with Trump. You can't compare it.
Can't. Mm-mm.
This we have to understand that this is Joe Biden's what we consider Justice Department.
Mm-hmm.
Merrick Garland was hired by Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
His DOJ brought these charges against Hunter Biden. So this
Mm-hmm.
is something that has been going on within the party, like Sister Azima said. And really what Joe Biden did, and whether people like it, love it, or whatever, like you said, he protected his son from the Democratic Party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know, and we could say that Trump would have gone after him. We don't even know that. We know that historically, what we've seen with the Democratic Party is that they break every tool that
Mm-hmm.
they can't use no further,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably would have set out to destroy Hunter and make him pay for every impropriety that may or may not have happened. As he said, January 1st, 2014 to December 1st, 2024. So
Mm-hmm.
he gave his son a 10-year cover,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is not unprecedented. We know that President Ford basically did that for Nixon
Mm-hmm.
when he said any crimes that he may have committed knowingly and unknowingly. But
Mm-hmm.
this is definitely
Unknowing. He knew. His son knew. He knew. Even Obama knew. Even Clinton knew. Even your girl Kamala knew. They all knew because they were all complicit. The funny thing is that supposedly, allegedly, Matt Getz got his hands on the laptops. And there were not one, there were three. And that information is in his hands. And then all of a sudden, you see he can't be the Department of Justice person because he has the laptops allegedly in his control. So,
Which he could do more damage if you understand how
yeah.
it works. Matt Gates can really do more damage as a
Mm-hmm.
private citizen
Mm-hmm.
than he could have done as the attorney general.
DOJ. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Because he can slowly leak things out. He can put some of this, even some of these photographs out there, which would link back to the Pizzagate incidents and everything that went on, which caused Hillary to destroy 33,000 records on her laptop device. And when she destroyed them, she didn't just take a hammer to them. She poured bleach and other chemicals on there to make sure they were unretrievable. And that's why you hear Trump always talk about that, because that was at the height of the Podesta stuff that was going on, and where they were having the Brockovich woman, and they were doing spirit cooking. They were talking all about pizza parties, and they had a list of what certain things meant in reference to pleasures and delights with children.
Do you think, Sister Azima, do you think this is Joe Biden giving them the finger? Like y'all ran me out. Y'all basically had a silent coup against me, and y'all think y'all slick. We just saw Mark Zuckerberg won down to Margot Land and basically kissed the ring of Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and they know how the social media game is being played. Do you think Joe said, you know what, I gotta protect my boy because they're gonna go after him?
I think, I'm going to be very honest, I think he was very selfish. I think he was more interested in protecting himself
Mm.
because he gave them the finger. You know how he gave them the finger? When they told him it was time for him to resign,
Endorse Kamala.
and he was standing there talking. And what did he say? He says, and we all came to the Democratic Party came to the conclusion to support Kamala Harris. The look on her face was like a deer in the headlights. And when he said that, that meant that they did not have the ability to have a primary because the person who would have beat her out was John F. Kennedy. And by doing that, it meant that she would have to run. He knew she was, an empty vessel. And he knew that this would be a way to destroy. I don't think he was interested in destroying the Democrats as much as he was interested in getting back at Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and Obama, and Hillary. I think he was very angry that those people collectively came together and found a way to force him out.
Mm. The old guard.
So yeah, he gave them the finger by giving them Kamala, and they knew that there was nothing they could do with that, and they lost. Now the bigger thing is that I think many of them realize that 95% to 97% of the American United States population voted for Donald Trump, not to vote for the Republican Party, but to vote for Trump because they knew he can get things done. We don't know what this will do to the Democratic Party, whether it will even continue to survive. I do know that I've heard on numerous occasions where Ice Cube, is that the brother's name? That
Mm-hmm.
met Ice Cube and Robert F. Kennedy, not together, but independently, have talked about creating an entirely new um, party platform that would take the supposed to be ideals of the Democratic Party and bring it
Yeah,
to the
and I've been hearing the same thing about Bernie Sanders, that he's basically causing a major rift within the Democratic Party. We're getting them to become more of a populist movement, and for the working class. That's Bernie's biggest mantra that he loves to promote. And basically, like, the Democratic Party that he remembers, or whatever they try to say, is no longer. They need to reshape their values, reshape their what
well,
they stand for and who they stand for.
it never was that. So let's be real. The Democratic Party never started out like that. They were the Dixiecrats, and they were the carpetbaggers. They were not the abolitionists. The abolitionists aligned themselves with the freed people who are already here, which we now know are foundational blacks or the indigenous Indians. And then you have people who were freed on the heels of slavery. Not all of them left their plantation. But those that did for something bigger aligned themselves with the white abolitionists and the indigenous people and the foundation of black folks, and they created the Republican Party. Okay. So, because we are not a democracy, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, we are one nation under God, we are a republic. It states that clearly. It clearly states we are a republic. And so we are under a constitutional republic.
Let me ask everybody in the chat, those who are in the chat, um, do you guys want President Trump to release everything? The Epstein tapes, the Diddy tapes, any tapes or files that they have on the FBI, in the FBI. Do you guys want them to release them and basically let the public know what's going on? What has been going on? We all know that the Epstein tapes are there, and it implicates a lot of people outside of just Jeffrey Epstein and the girl Maxine Ghislaine. Um, how do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel that all those tapes need to be exposed and conspirators need to be outed and or jailed? Sister Azima, how you feel about it?
Um, I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that, in the respect that I don't think everybody can handle. We see that now. We see that this election has pretty much not the election, but the people who have vilified the Trump. We can see the outcome of how they're acting. They are standing away from their families. I mean, they are going to some very serious extremes. I don't know if this information, if it was out there publicly, all of these naysayers and these people who are crying out, we don't know what they may or may not do. We don't know where it impacts them. I would basically say a lot of them are having a personal crisis right now, of a personal crisis. I do want to know more about the JFK files. I want to know where that is. I want to know what really happened to um, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Would be interested in knowing why Ronald Reagan was shot at. I would like to know why.
Oh, Hinckley's home, you guys, by the way.
Yes, he is. And I would like to know how and why Ford was stabbed. What policies was he trying to introduce that got him stabbed? Because think about it, you don't just run up and stab the president. And those people were able to get close enough to do the damage that they did because they were right there in what's going on. So I do agree that this is karma for the Biden family, mostly Joe. I mean, we all have our own personal norms, but I think I was a little taken aback when his first wife died and he had them swear him in front of his deceased wife and daughter at the hospital. I couldn't believe that. My mind had to go like, what? And he wanted that so badly. He said he did it so that he could finally give his family the peace that they wanted. That may be his thinking. I don't know, but it just, even the news reporters were like, why would you want to do that? And here they are on the gurney on each side of him, and he's being sworn in, and I'm like, wow. But to each his own. And the reason I don't think everyone can handle it, we don't know how much they've gone through and scrubbed that information. If we're going to get all of the true information, we don't know what roles other government agencies played in that, and people on an individual level had a hand in that. In many of these uh, major assassinations, we don't know. Um, and then with that, it would probably lead to the arrest of a lot of other people. Many of our actors and actresses, um, other people behind the scenes, because if you walk back now from the time Trump was in office for those 4 years, we saw the physician who was over the Olympic teams for women. He was arrested. We saw some other coaches and other athletes, the training people, they were arrested. Support staff for these athletes that had to travel, mostly the young women and the young boys. We saw a lot of their handlers and staff being arrested and indicted. And then all of the stuff that was kicked up with Disney in Florida. There's a lot that has gone down there, and it's been a lot of arrests there. But we don't know what he's got, other plans he had on the table for melanated skinned people. Because he said the Mexicans were supposed to replace us. He said that on more than one occasion, publicly.
Yeah, I think that I think the tapes need to come out. I think everything need to come out to a sense, and we know the language that they'll use for the sake of national security.
Okay.
They won't do it. We already know that word is coming. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that we need to really like Cash Patel. If Cash Patel do become the FBI director, I do think he has a plan with stripping the government from all that declassification stuff they're doing,
Yes. Yes.
and getting us to realize that most Americans, definitely us black folks, we accept transparency. If somebody did it and
Mm-hmm.
y'all got proof that they did it,
Mm-hmm.
let what happened to them happen to them, and
Mm-hmm.
not all more of media. I was prior to the show, I was looking at something that Lindsey Graham said about the possible attorney general, and Lindsey Graham says, no, not the attorney general, the other guy, and it's allegations. We've been dealing with so many allegations probably the last 10, 15 years that allegations are destroying people's careers
Oh,
instead
yeah.
of
Yeah.
proof.
Yes.
So if we have proof that somebody did something illegal, we need to put it out there. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Trump is going to. I think Trump is more focused on other things that we may think are not important that is important. I think Trump is focused on getting rid of people within the government who
Mm-hmm.
aren't about his America first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people who that did not vote for Donald Trump. They may feel like, oh, he's in bed with other foreign governments. I disagree with that. I think that Trump is, for lack of better words, what people may not understand, Trump is about America. He's a nationalist to the core,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's his number one fight, like getting people around him that thinks about America first.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't think
I,
definitely those Epstein tapes. They ain't coming out. Epstein's is not coming out.
no. No.
It involves too many. It will literally destroy, like you said, not just our political structure. It would destroy our entertainment structure. And regardless of how we feel about entertainers, they're just entertainers.
Mm-hmm.
the American psyche
Mm-hmm.
needs these type of things to function
Mm-hmm.
as a society that just is the way it is, a livable society. It's entertainment. And our society functions off of having a certain amount of entertainment to be entertained, to distract us from other things or to keep us preoccupied on other things. So
I
I
think
doubt, go ahead.
I think I think Trump was very strategic in the cabinet that he put together. When you look at his cabinet and you look at the people he has there, all of them are qualified to do the job. This is the only cabinet where we have, this is the only presidency that created a cabinet where the people were qualified. Everybody else, at least in these last 12 years, have not been qualified, but they have been supportive of those in the Democratic Party. I
Let
am,
me let me ask everybody in the chat real quick. What do you guys think about Biden's his pardon is not for the crime, not just for the crimes that his son has been found guilty on. His pardon is a 10-year blanket. What do you
mhm.
guys think the 10-year blanket is for? Go ahead, Sister Azim. I apologize for
No, let's see what they have to say. 'Cause
I mean, that's a listen. When I seen the pardon, and I heard it, and I'm like, I ain't paying no mind. But then when I read it, I said, "Ooh, he gave him a 10-year carte blanche. That's big."
Mhm. And it's big because everything that I read about, I agree with this. But some of the sisters want to destroy America, so give them what they want. Release it.
Released tapes.
Um, um, I have two things, and it just goes across my mind. Yes, they have Epstein's tapes, but nobody fled America when Epstein's tapes came out. Look at all the actors, actresses, look at all of the dignitaries in other parts of the world who are now moving around, seeking places for asylum where they will not be deported or extradited back to their country or to America.
Mm. I think his blanket it's because he abused children. Interesting. For all the things that's going to come out, absolutely. Sister Azima, can you elaborate? Steve Bannon said it's American nationalist versus globalist. Hmm. Professor Dre is at the gym. Listen, thanks, Professor Dre, for the support. Oh, Sister Azima, do you want to explain the difference between a globalist and a nationalist? In your understanding? She froze. Oh, look how they got our sister. She froze for a second, brother Rodney. But a globalist is someone who believes open borders, neocon. They want wars. They want basically one world government. And if you know anything about George Soros, it's the type of people that George Soros aligns with. American nationalist is more of America first. What Trump is about, putting America, sticking to that Constitution, focused on American, making Trump. If you look at it, he wants to build America back to the way it used to be, as an industrial or the technology capital.
Mhm. Of
You
the
want to
world.
elaborate on this question?
What is the question? I
He
didn't.
said, "Can you elaborate on American nationalists and globalists? What's the difference?"
Well, a nationalist means it directly affects your nation. Okay. And the globalist is a worldview. We are right now a globalist country. We do business around the world. With that doing business around the world, the oligarchy decided it was more important to remove industry. That's why you don't have tech schools like you used to have. That's why you don't have a lot of manufacturing or industry here in America. We became mostly a service industry as opposed to an industrial or technological industry. When you do that, companies, American companies that were born and bred here, have to go overseas. And the tariffs to come back into America are imposed against them, and you pay them too. So what happens? I don't want to get into the whole tax thing, but what I'm basically saying is that uh, brother Quentin here has a business, and I say, well, we don't want him here in America anymore, and we're going to make him take his solar industry overseas. So when he gets over there, those people are not trained to do anything. So you now have to train them, you have to pay them, and that's a lot of money out of your pocket. So by the time you train them and get all of your stuff invested in them, they're going to give you a poor quality because you don't have the same types of ores and things there that you would here to make your solar panels a certain way. And then you have to ship them back. Shipping cost is going to be higher, and you're going to pay a tariff.
I can give you a prime example, Brother Rodney. Since COVID, I have one up here in my office. But since COVID, anybody that has a new car, that flobe that comes from that the key is in, those flobes are like triple the amount of the money that they used to be from 3 years ago, because a lot of them flobes are imported from China. And if you lose, you get 3 flobes, I guess, when you buy a new car, or 2. If you lose them and you got to go to your car dealer to get one, it's going to take you forever to get that flobe, and you're going to be paying $500-$600.
Yes, you are.
Just for the flobe, because the actual flobe, not the key, but the flobe, it gets outsourced. So those of us that are in like production fields, we're not manufacturers anymore. Like Sister Azima said, we are not a country where you could take a small city, you put a Walmart distribution center in that city, you literally change the economy of that city instantly. Build up the economy, build up the American people. People got jobs. We don't have those cities throughout this country like we used to 15 years ago. A lot of the stuff is outsourced. If you look at Amazon, right? If Jeff Bezos wanted to be a jackass, if he took out of every Amazon warehouse in this country, the American economy would probably fall. That's just off of Amazon. So when you're with Trump doing the tariffs, is he's saying, if y'all want to do business with America, y'all got to give us money, because y'all making money off of us, and we're not making any money off of it. And a lot of people, we get so caught up in to doing business a certain way the last 10, 15 years, that now that he's trying to change it and push back, people are saying it's going to harm our economy. When in actuality, it is going to help our economy to get us back to producing and basically bringing us back to a manufacturing economy.
Okay. Can I speak on 2 other things? You asked why a 10-year period. Some of the statutes will expire. And therefore no matter what goes on, he will not be brought up for gun charges or money laundering, because there is a statute of limitation and they will expire. And those things will not be revisited. As far as manufacturing, America used to be the real McCoy. Everything of quality was built by us and sent overseas. The people overseas did reverse engineering, took all of our stuff apart and figured out how they can use their materials, their forms of steel. We have nickel ore in our steel and coke along with lime to make it a very solid, rigid steel. with the ability to flex in the wind. A lot of the countries overseas don't have those same types of ores or access to certain minerals to strengthen their steel. I remember in the late 80s, we were buying drywall from China. And it turned out that once that drywall got wet, it released lead particles and
Mm.
some type of sodium nitrate into the air. People were getting sick. Their houses were burning down for no reason. Insurance companies wouldn't hardly do anything. By turning you from an industrial country into a um, service industry, your wages can never go up because you're not providing something very valuable. Unless you are a doctor or a lawyer or certified public accountant, things like that, the rest of your services can never exceed the value of what you do. So that's why wages never went up. Cost of living went up, but wages never went up. And now that wages are going up in certain parts of the United States, you have to have industry to come back to offset that so that we can barter. What are we bartering with? McDonald's? You're going to send McDonald's overseas? You can't. I can't. But the company will go overseas. And right now, McDonald's is hurting overseas. And I'm not even sure you all are aware of it. They're looking to shut down almost a third of their businesses overseas, as well as some of their businesses here. Nobody can afford a $20 hamburger. And so with you being a service industry comes high inflation, cost of living, and everything goes up. But the service is not valued. We used to sell steel, automobiles. We manufactured washing machines, dryers, hair dryers. Everything that you're getting now from Amazon that's labeled China, for a long time, many of those items had to be recalled because they were not properly built. They were built to handle electricity in that country, not the 110 or 240 we have coming out of our walls. They didn't have that there. And so those things would burn up and you would have a fire in your house. And so, yes, China, the way they got around that is that they had a handshake agreement with people like Biden and Obama, and they were allowed to come in here and place their people around military bases and begin to build up a closed economy where they're doing all the in-house manufacturing and selling you the Hondas and the Nissans and all of these cars here close. And if not on our soil, right next door in Canada and in Mexico. And then with the North American trade agreement, they wouldn't have to pay any type of tax or tariff, but the cost of their car would still be high. And you had him and Kamala saying, we're going to go electric. And I laugh because the only way you're going to produce enough electricity is to burn coal. Ah, a fossil fuel that you didn't want to deal with. That's what's making your electricity. Don't ever think solar panels are everything. They're not. Solar and wind is great, but when the wind doesn't blow, it doesn't generate anything. And they haven't
Very,
developed a system in order for you to store enough of the generated energy to make a difference. And you can't store enough solar energy to make a difference. Your car doesn't work on a direct battery. It works on alternating current, not direct current. A battery and a flashlight wears out the longer you use it. Okay, so that's why you have to have alternating current. It has to have peaks and valleys in order to make sure it maintains its equilibrium to constantly produce an outcome. So if you're going to have solar homes, you need to have solar homes that can take thermodynamic thermal energy out of the ground or work with generated K-band frequency energies, all kinds of things that are here that we can use, and people call it the Tesla coil or whatever they want to, but we can generate certain levels of energy and supplement it with the fossil fuel. Fossil
so
fuel is renewable.
So Vera put Vera, they call me Ike, put up a well-known slogan for anybody that has ever traveled through New Jersey on Route 1 and 9. Put the very well slogan, Trenton makes it, the world takes it. It's a very well slogan, and when I seen it, it made me smile. I put it back up on the screen, and most people don't realize what this phrase means. It means the company Bayer
Mm-hmm.
capital was in Trenton, so that's what they're talking about. The Bayer aspirin, when it says Trenton makes it, the world takes it.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about the aspirin, and that's right. And if you live in New Jersey or know anybody about New Jersey is literally the pharmaceutical capital of the
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
All the pharmaceutical companies, they got offices in New Jersey, and it really put a smile on my face when I seen it. And it's like Sister Azima said, like when you have President Biden was running on a platform that Kamala Harris said she's going to run on a platform of electric vehicles and the Green Deal, and then she said no to fracking. And you
Yeah.
live in a state like Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Michigan, and like you telling people that you're against fracking 1 minute, you realize really why they lost the election if you know their politics a little bit, because they were not no longer talking to the American people.
Mm-mm.
They were not talking to someone who goes out there and, as we would say, get it out the mud.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking to an elite class of people, educated, quote unquote, as they would say, educated people who sit in their corporate offices and don't realize the people who go out and make America work.
Mm-hmm.
The truck drivers, the people at the refineries, the people in the warehouses, they weren't talking to them. And that's why most of those people voted for Donald Trump. Like Sister Azima said, not the Republican Party, for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, whether you like him, love him, hate him, it's a symbolic thing that he's from the business world. He's going to get shit done.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was able to convey to people, that, yo, trust in me, I'm going to get shit done. I'm going to get America back vibrant. I'm going to get people back to working and getting money again.
Well, with this, him pardoning his son, it was really to protect his son. And it was to protect his grandchildren because they can come after them later.
Mhm.
And he didn't want the Biden name, in which his grandchildren carry, be stigmatized in a very horrible way. But he opened the door for that. Okay, he opened that door.
Mm.
And so, he says, I know I'm going out. I don't have much longer. So while I have some form of cognitive ability, I'm going to go ahead and do this. 1, to protect himself, 2, to protect his son, and 3, to protect his grandchildren. Because he does not have a good relationship with Hunter's wife, the ex-wife. And he doesn't have a very good relationship with
His daughter, right?
his daughter, or with either of his daughter-in-laws.
Mm.
Because Hunter took over his brother's wife.
Wow.
He married her and moved into the house.
Damn. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sister Azima froze on that piece, y'all. She froze on that last comment. So that's where we're at, family. We're at, everybody said how they feel about the tapes, whether they want the tapes to come out, the Epstein tapes, the as they say, the Diddy tapes, because they say Diddy got stuff on people. Knowing what Hunter has done in the last 10 years. People have voiced what they want to come out. I agree. They'll use national security as a way not to come out. The thing with Martin Luther King's tapes are basically out. The government was found liable for being complicit in Martin Luther King's death. That's something that Judge Joe Brown has mentioned plenty of times. I think he sat on the case. So if you could actually Google that, and it popped right up that the government was found liable and complicit in Martin Luther King's death. But we just saw 2 weeks ago, I think, Malcolm X's daughters and Ben Crump decided to put $100 million lawsuit in the against the government being complicit in Malcolm X death. So,
Mhm.
like, we should be cognizant on that and being aware of what's going to come out of that and go forth. So, Sister Azima,
Mhm.
let me ask you, where we going now? Is Biden just going to just ride off into the sunset after this, um, or what's going to happen? You think?
Well, we know he'll be out come the 20th of January. Our concern is that he has sent warheads to Ukraine, and they have been bombing the Koreans that are over there helping Putin. They've done 3 bombings so far. So I'm not sure where all of that's going to go. I think he's giving everybody the finger because he knows he no longer has any political career. But like everybody said, his karma has come home to roost, and it got next to him. Okay. Um, and all of that trash talking he was doing, his body couldn't pay for it. He wrote a check he couldn't pay for. And now he's paying for it dearly. And he's hoping that if he can get his son pardoned in any kind of way, they will not come back and bring him up on other charges.
I'm gonna ask you if it is a charge of espionage.
The pardon doesn't handle espionage, it doesn't pardon um, impeachments, and it doesn't pardon treason.
Oh,
Those things are not admissible. And the whole process of clemency, that's what it was called, started back in the 7th century under the English king Ine, Scott of Wessex, England. And he was the one that used it, particularly those soldiers that fought with him or for him against his enemies, who were sometimes families. And he would pardon them so that they would not be executed by other family members. And he would give them a way to leave Wessex and go into other areas of England or other parts of Europe. So that was the whole purpose of that. And then over time, it's been modified to fit the needs of those who are using it to benefit themselves. Because it's never to benefit those people. Yeah, those people got a benefit, but it's ultimately to say, look what I did on my way out the door. Okay, I pardoned these people. So think of me. I am a nice person. I would have to say the United States presidency has used it as a linchpin to benefit them. Now, if Matt gets somehow information leaks out about what went on those laptops, and you couple it with whatever's on Diddy's laptops, and for these actors and entertainers to be fleeing like nobody's business, okay, um, I'd like to see what that's going to do, because we haven't heard anything from the Podestas. I don't know if you all remember them. They were all part of that group with Clinton early in the stages when she was Secretary of State.
where's
And
Susan Rice at?
I don't know. That's a good question. Where is she? So you got these people have a lot. They have a lot to lose, and it's not just their position. They have a lot to lose in their standing. It kind of reminds me of a kid's story, The Emperor's New Clothes. I don't know if you
Mm.
all know that story, but there was a emperor who was out of touch. He was high and mighty and arrogant. And I always tell people, the people that we elected to represent us, if everybody in America got up and walked away from not walk away from America, but just walk away from the political system and create a new system, they can't rule. A king can only rule people that allow him to rule. Okay, so in the emperor's new clothes, he was very arrogant, out of touch with his people. And these guys came in and they hustled him and couldn't sew a lick, but made him invisible clothes, and he walked around naked all over town. And it was embarrassing. Everybody laughed at him. The children laughed at him, and he asked them, because the adults were too afraid to say, but the kids told him, "You're naked. You don't have anything on." And so that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the Democratic Party being stripped down. They're becoming naked, and we can see them in their true form. And that's good for melanated skin, because for a long time we have allowed many of our boule, our highly educated folks that went to college to do what they're doing to come, because I have that degree too, but I never allowed it to make me feel out of place. I am very humbled that other people listen to me, my opinions, but it's just my opinion. And I like talking to people to get their opinion, because it allows me to see where I may be lacking. It gives me an opportunity to know more about myself and where I'm lacking and how to strengthen those things and improve my character. That's what it's all about. Some of us have forgotten that. And in forgetting that, we denigrate everybody else. And we feel it's our place to talk for them when they can speak for themselves. They may not speak as eloquently as they do, because they may not have the vocabulary, but I bet you they can get down there and make their point well known. And you would have no other choice but to stand there and be like, "Oh, wow, I never looked at that. I never thought about that." And so the what I'm seeing here, he knows he's done. He's just trying to be sure that his grandchildren down the road are not vilified by his actions, because his actions have left a legacy of lies and deceit. And you know that. Every time this man has spoken, he has plagiarized other people's works. He has called us monkeys. He's called
Most Americans, and I'm gonna give Sister Azima a plug because she gave reference to the Boule, and tomorrow, you guys, we're gonna have a show tomorrow. Very special guests, and they're gonna talk about how the Boule lost again. You guys, and Dr. Short will be there as well.
oh Lord.
Um, so tomorrow night, Sister Azima didn't even know, I don't think, what the title of the show was, but the show tomorrow night will be the Boule lost again, and Dr. Short will be in the
Yes.
building. Let me ask you, Sister Azima, I don't even think a lot of us know, because I'm a little bit younger, that this man ran for president twice before.
Yes, he did.
When he got caught plagiarizing other people's work. Like,
Yeah. Yes.
to think that Joe Biden was the vice president for 8 years and then eventually the president, for someone that may have moved on, it's kind of like crazy that this ever happened.
No, I think it was all by design. It was all part of the New World Order piece,
Mm.
because the linchpin and all of that are us, melanated skinned people. When I say the linchpin in that, we're always looking for transparency. Everything's got to be clear to us. But then we had our people who got accepted in the enterprise of the oligarchy, and they wanted to remain. The benefits were great, but the sacrifice was equally as great. And so those people, the Roland Martins, the Joy Reids, the Sonny Halstons, the Whoopi Goldbergs, they are very upset because we didn't vote the way you edicted for us to do. That includes Obama. I mean, to come down and basically tell me, because I took insult to that too. You're telling me that because I have the ability to think on my own, that I chose not to be a victim, because that's what you've done for us for the last 65 years. You kept us victimized. You kept telling us that we were not good enough to be able to compete with other people to go to school. And I laugh at that because my father was an inventor. My grandfather was an inventor. I worked for NASA. Okay. My sister has a doctorate's degree. I got a daughter that's knocking on the door of that. Many of them, most of the time, they were homeschooled. There's a lot of things that I'm offended by that. I'm offended that you feel that you measure my character by my intelligence. I measure a person's character by their ability to imagine something and make it happen.
Sister Azima, I think that this is the one election where I think that I've never heard more people verbalize how they were offended
Mm-hmm.
of the way that these people talk to us, wag their finger at us for having a different viewpoint and concept of why we were not going to vote blue
Mm-hmm.
or had issues with voting blue or didn't want to vote or sat on the couch or voted independent or voted red. I think this is the first time that I've seen where so many people really took offense to, like you said, their just basic intelligence. Like, you calling me a dummy, you attacking me, you insinuating all this harmful stuff. I got a power. I got the power that you got. My vote.
And that's what they did. They expressed it in their vote. And they let them know. And they made the emperor naked. So the emperor is naked now. And there's nothing they can do. There's nothing that they can say. There's no more, I agree, browbeating. You can't. There's nothing. When the people spoke, you said that there were blue states, but when you looked at the map, there were blue townships and some blue counties. There was not a whole state blue. That even in California, 72% of the people voted red. Think about that. He got every swing state, every swing state, and not by a little. He got it by a large margin. So he won those swing states. And you just pandered to us. Nobody wanted to hear Oprah. Nobody wanted to hear Gail. Nobody wanted to hear
You didn't want
Joy.
to hear Megan Stallion?
No,
Yada
no.
yada 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 yada.
I was highly offended. Okay, I was very offended. I have I used to go to my father's big, he wasn't a politician like this, but he was a union rep. He was the only black man that had the CIO union for car manufacturers in the greater Midwest. And they had 10,000 people strong. He was the only black president they ever had, and everybody loved him. And there was one time I went with him to one of those big conventions, and they talked business, how they're going to strike, what type they're going to do over here. This location is not good. On days when people are off for 2 or 3 days, can they go and support? I mean, they were strategic, they talked business. When I turned TV on, because somebody told me, you want to see this, and they sent me the link. I think I linked it for 2 minutes on my eyeballs and turned it off. Why was that woman standing up there singing like she sings at a concert? This was not a concert, but this was a feel good moment for the Boulets. This is the first time we get a chance to see how our black people who have risen through the ranks. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Those people out there, they're not as old as I am. So that means that I was around before they were even thought of. And it was on my back, my parents' back, your parents' back, that they get an opportunity to go to college. But they thought that by the time they got to college, it was their place to talk down to you and for you to bow your head and they become your new plantation owners. They are not. That's the mentality they wanted. They wanted you to be victimized. They wanted you to feel like they had great ownership over you. It was their place to put words in your mouth because you don't know how to speak. Why, my God, what do you know? You're ignorant. And I'm like, no, There's no way to measure a person's IQ. You can only measure their imagination.
Oh, Sister Hazima froze. You guys, but she'll be back. Gene, I'm gonna ask her that question about Epstein that you put up there about Epstein. But one of the things that I came to the realization, me personally, you guys, is they hate us. We have to realize that there are a certain group of black people, black American people who, like Sister Azima is talking about the boule, that they literally hate us. Their rhetoric tells us they hate us. Us not following their lead on this election tells us they hate us. Like Sister Star said, she felt harassed during the election, trolled, text, phone calls, voting shamed, and all types of stuff. They're telling you that they hate you. And I'm going to keep saying it. If you don't treat people that hate you the same way, then you're going to be a victim for them. You're going to be their food. And they're going to eat you as a meal, whether that's figuratively, spiritually, emotionally, financially.
Mm-hmm.
These people hate you. The boule, who are black, as Sister Azima says, copper tone people, they hate other black people. Period. And we need to overstand and understand that.
And that, yeah.
They
And
hate you.
understand it. And it's not that they hate you. They loathe themselves. And what they
Mm,
do is that they see themselves in you. And that's what bothers them. They see themselves in you.
we got a question for you. You
Hmm.
ready?
Hmm. Um, there's no reason for them to protect him because of his activities with youthful people from that region. Um, I think they may have had him alive for a while, but I think after they had the hearings with Miss Maxwell, because we haven't heard anything else from her, we haven't seen her at all. We don't know if she's alive or not alive. Okay. I don't think he is alive anymore. I think in the very beginning, they found a way to get him out of there. And once they got the information they needed from him and was extracted, he was unnecessary. And
And
so,
understanding, and even when we talk about stuff like that, in reference to the question, when you're a tool and you're no longer useful,
mhm,
they will break you.
mhm,
What you know between your ears and the information can cause more harm than good. They will consider you. We watch enough movies. You're
mhm,
considered collateral damage.
mhm,
So on any aspect that he was more of a danger than an asset anymore.
mhm.
He's no longer with us.
No,
I
I
don't
don't.
think so.
Mm-mm. And like I can go back to what I'm saying, people didn't flee when they got the Epstein tapes. But the minute they put Diddy's tapes with Epstein, folks started leaving. Jennifer Lopez, all of these folks. I think I had my best laugh today, and I hate to say it. It's going to be, that's a human part of me. We know that Miss Ellen DeGeneres moved to a place called Cogswold, England. That's Cogswold. Anyway, they bought a nice place there in the Glens, out in the, I don't want to say forest, but out in the rural farm area. Got over there, got off the plane, got to their place, and it was flooded. Their house, just their house, unrepairable. Their house.
Yeah, and even for those that are into this music and hip hop.
Hmm.
Know that this situation with Drake and Kendrick Lamar is a little bit bigger than just them two having a problem. Remember that it's Universal Musical Group,
Hmm.
um, the Grisham brothers.
Hmm.
These two are the same brothers that Puffy had the problem with. Um, so understand that it's a lot of cleaning coming out right now. A lot of big, like Sister Azim said, a lot of big people, Universal Music Group,
Hmm.
are going to be with Puffy having, and let's call it what it is. It's leverage. At the end of the day, we may just think it's tapes, but it's leverage against influential people because nobody wants their dirty laundry aired out,
Mm-mm.
whether it's in a courtroom or in public eye. So know that it's a lot going on.
And then let's go to the esoteric world right quick. This is 2024. This is the number 8. The number 8 turned sideways is infinity. Okay. It's a powerful number. It's the number where everything that needs to be seen will be seen. Everything that you need to know under the guise of the energies and frequencies of Aquarius will be known. And you've heard me say that there's going to be 10,000 years of peace. I agree. And what is happening is that we get a chance to see that. Now, what is 25? 2025 is the number 9. What is the number 9? It's completion. So that means everything that they've done all the way up into 8, which is infinity, we can either have an infinity of peace, and that's where we're heading, because people are all over the world, not just here in the United States of America, all over the world. The people in Canada are getting ready to kick Trudeau out. Okay. Japanese people were making effigies of Trump dancing the Trump dance, on the YMCA song. I mean, people around the world are happy. We're no longer having people coming in on the borders. Other folks are self-deporting. Are you all aware of that? They are just saying, can we get a ticket and go back to our country? And people are doing that. Okay. Um, and I've never heard, I know they might have audited him, but this is the first time they've made a big issue where they have audited uh, the military, and they've audited Internal Revenue Service, and they've audited a lot of things. And I was just watching on TikTok. Who was I watching? I was watching Officer Tatum, and I had done some stuff watching Candace Owen and Stephen, Stephen Gardner and Stephen A. Smith. They were talking about the pardon, but they were also having other little information, little tidbits of information in there. Tim Black, The Honest Conversation about Hunter's Pardon. The Outlier, this is the documentary film on why Trump is Trump. The name Trump is to triumph over where we are. So it didn't matter if his name was Trump or if his nickname was Trump. He is the energy that is needed to get us to the end, to the finality of what's going on. So when that number 9 hits, everything that we've seen here, it's just going to lay out like a well-read book. You just go page to page to page, and you're going to read it all. Some of it will be shocking. Others will be a revelation of, wow, we can move forward. It can bring closure to what you thought or think. It will help you change how you look at the world and how you view yourself in this process. But it's all about change. We're coming into that great change. Everybody wants reparations. We're coming into the change of freedom, atonement, where the things that belong to me are now mine. And I don't have to step on anybody to get it. I don't have to trick you or talk slick or be potty mouth with you. It is your turn. It is your turn to receive your gifts. Now, if you choose to be a victim and you need to have somebody lead you along, then your gifts are going to reflect who you are and what you're about. But for those of us who need to move forward and can move forward, our gifts will be abundant for us. And so that's where we'll be. We will see a major change in how constitutional government works as opposed to a democracy. And in that constitutional government, the things that belong to you, that are yours, and you rightfully worked for them to get them, then they will be yours in abundance. If you're out here robbing and stealing people, your abundance of incorporation will be right there. You'll be incorporated. That will be your abundance. Okay,
Sister
so
Azima, could you explain how in your lifetime, because I don't think a lot of us really understand how and you're a little older than me, in your lifetime, how you seen defederalizing how the federal government has been so involved in our affairs in the last 40, 50 years, that taking the federal government out of our quote unquote everyday life, how it's going to affect us.
I remember when my grandfather had gold coins. I remember when my father had some gold coins. When silver was real, when paper money said you can redeem this for real gold, real silver. I remember that. I remember being able to go to any bank and say, I want the value of this in gold or silver. And they would give you gold coins. They would give you silver coins. I don't remember people having to have 183 vaccinations. I don't remember that. I remember 5 to 10. And after you reached age 12,
Booster shot.
yeah, and they were every 12 years. Okay. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. You had the flu, you took Father John's, you slapped a poultice on your chest, you stayed outside. I don't remember all of this. I do remember when it began to come. I do remember when we went from education being run by the state to going to a national level, and it changed everything. I mean, it was not the same. That was the year I began to see a lot of teachers lose their jobs, particularly teachers that were really good with black teachers, even white teachers who were really good working with children that had learning disabilities, severe or mild, physical or mental, or even social. There were some teachers that were just, they were a gift. And they knew how to work with these children. Those children may never go to college, but a lot of them ended up being able to hold a job. They could change tires, they could work on cars, they could bake, you know, things. They work in a bakery. I don't ever remember having. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. We had 4 bakeries here. Man, this place smelled so good all the time. It was great. And you could buy day old bread for a nickel, a whole loaf of bread for a nickel. That was in the 60s and 70s. It was day old bread. You get the bread now, there's so many preservatives in it. You can just sit it outside. It ain't it's the bed, the birds won't eat it, nobody's gonna touch it. It's unrealistic. It's absolutely unrealistic. Okay. I remember when every school had a real school nurse, not a person who went to school and kind of learned medical assisting, a real nurse. She went to school. So if you broke your arm, she knew how to set that immediately so that there won't be a lot of swelling. I mean, they were real nurses. We had real doctors that would come around. A doctor would come to your house. Okay. The older you got, then the doctors would come and visit you. And he'd bring the young doctors so they would know how to do house calls. I remember that. So everything now is geared to make you go to where the service is instead of the service being where you are.
More government reliant.
Right. And therefore, who do you argue with or complain? You can't
Mm.
complain to anybody. Okay. I moved earlier this year. I had an incident where I needed to talk to the city mayor or manager of where I used to live. Now you know how I felt when I called over there and I got a pre-recording that said, good morning. You have reached the city of Ferguson, Missouri. We will be open at this hour from 9 o'clock to this time. If you need to talk to anybody, you can push this button and leave a message, and someone will contact you within 24 to 48 hours. I'm like, what kind of government is that? Now, not everything was good. I do like the fact that we have stopped what we call in Missouri Jim Crow laws, where every little township, depending on how they felt about you, their police were always Joe Smith's son or Mary Ann's brother, that kind of thing. I'm glad that end of the headache is gone, where you cannot have these little small towns do stop and frisk and these.
She froze, unfortunately. I remember Coke Crew said, I remember when all gasoline stations had full service and the attendants would check your oil, tires, and put gas in your vehicle. Yeah, those are the days. I live in a self-serve state, but I definitely remember those days. They would definitely check your oil, definitely ask you. Um, I don't even know if they got full service gas stations anymore. So everyone in the chat that wants to comment, you guys, if you guys got any questions for Sister Azima before she close out, let me know. And also, some of the things, if you think that you want the government out of your affairs, how do you think that's going to affect you per se? She'll be back in 1 second. You got a question for you. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, your thoughts on why DEA nominee Chad Cronister withdrew his consideration? I don't know. I don't know nothing about the guy.
Me either. Who is he?
About the guy. Colt was mentioning he remembers when gas stations gave full service.
Yes, I
They
do
would
too.
check your oil, check your tires, put gas in your vehicle, clean your windows. They treat you like you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
Now they looking at you talking about how much.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, if you live in like Pennsylvania, Virginia, you better get out yourself and pump that gas. Rodney, what's the AP question again, bro? Let me go back up. Hold on. What's this, Sister Azim? You know what he's saying here, Rodney?
Yes, this gentleman is out of Florida. He is from Hillsborough County, Florida. He was their top law enforcement
Oh, okay.
officer. He was the sheriff. Um, he was going to be over the Drug Enforcement Administration. He didn't elaborate why he withdrew his name. I
Mm.
do know that right now, the Democratic Party, they are doing honeypot, the honeypot trick. And that's where they try to go out and dig up illicit sexual acts that the person supposedly was involved in, and then they could just smear them with it.
You know this what he's saying right here, Sister
It's,
Azim?
huh?
Rodney is saying a sibling believe that AP knew is sincere and non-biased knew. You know what he's saying there?
How a sibling believes the AP news is sincere and non-biased news.
Oh, Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize what he was saying at first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh nah. Associated Press is a little janky now. They're not they're very biased. I mean one of the things with news and me, I haven't watched For you guys that heard Sister Azima say where she was from, she's from Ferguson. Ferguson is the reason I basically stopped watching mainstream media. I'm going to tell you why. I used to work at night. So when the situation with Mike Brown happened in Ferguson, I came home from work and you turn on one news and one news say one thing, one news say another. And I'm like, hold up. Y'all just reporting the news. So that's one of the reasons why I do not listen to mainstream media. I may get a couple things. I used to read the newspaper heavy, but you got to be real careful with mainstream media and how they spin things. Know that cable news is more of opinion based nowadays. They don't report. Opinion. They have these shows where you got journalists who are panelists and they give an opinion based off of information, and some of the information is not the same. So you got to be very, I would say, careful what you're digesting, whether it's true or not. Verify it with, I guess, 5 different independent sources, independent of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Even so much so, NPR is a little janky now. You got to be careful. I mean, even with the Biden's pardon, what I did is I went strictly to the White House's site because they have to do a press release, and you just go and you can find it, the information. I listen to Bloomberg News a lot. Sister Azima, you want to give us some advice on news?
I've been cautious of news since 78. Up until that time, there were independent news channels. We know about NBC, ABC, CBS. There was KPLR, that was our local. There was KMOV, KMOX. There was KSD, that was local. And then on the national level, you had those. You also ended up with, before there was MSNBC, there was Turner News, and quite a few others. You had, in my opinion, real reporters. They went out and investigated what they were talking about. Clear Channel came along. The 70s through the 80s is where we began to have the monopoly buyouts. They were buying up airlines. They were buying up businesses. The only business that seemed to stay independent was McDonald's, because they bought themselves out. Everybody else, KFC, Church's Chicken, all of them fell up under a company called Howard Food, Food Products and something, and it's now changed hands, but they are conglomerate holders. They hold your chicken people as well as your pizza people. And that is when we were having the antitrust laws. We were fighting tooth and nail in Congress, and the Democrats had the controlling seats, both the House and the Senate, and they would just flick of a pen. Next thing you know, it's gone. I remember TWA being an airline that was owned by someone. They struck, they came to a deal, they never stopped flying. They came to a deal and became owner-based airline. It's the only airline in which all of its employees had equal share in the business, and they became outstanding. The customer service was tremendous. How they kept the airlines together, it was amazing, the things that they would do. And Carl Icahn came along, and slowly but surely he picked away at them and destroyed them. We no longer have TWA. We ended up losing quite a few other airlines. And we went from having, 30, 40 airlines down to United Way, American Airlines, and a couple of few others. And it just, Virgin Air, it just really, it was heartbreaking. They were union busters because the biggest people in the unions were, and they became union busters by allowing them to monopolize the industry. They had the money, they had the political votes. They stood against the individual companies and entities, And soon all of those companies and entities went to the wayside. Missouri, because we have all the railroads that come through here, we're on a seaport. Everything that goes up and down, north and south, comes up and down the Mississippi River. We are met with the river that goes to Illinois, and then we have all our other tributaries that takes us right up to the Ohio River, right on into, Indiana, Ohio, Connecticut, all these kind of places, because those rivers come down and meet where we are in Missouri. The unions were so great. There were good things about that and bad things. And like with anything, sometimes when the cream gets to the top, it's sour. It becomes corrupt. And they were doing things that were very corrupt. And overall, it hurt the unions. They did have great bargaining power, but then what they did was that they began to slap fines on them and took them away from being just a union and made them an entity unto themselves. So all of that was hurtful. I think what we're seeing, we want Trump. Trump is trying to get us back to where we can be, like Brother Clinton said, national, a nationalistic view, a constitutional look at things. Where we made mistakes in the past, we need to fix them. Things that we can't, that we didn't do. Do you believe Trump will pardon any of the? It's not up to Trump. It will be up to his cabinet, the people that he's putting in those key places. They will come back and tell him, yes, you need to do this, and no, you don't. That's why he's relying on these people wholeheartedly and steadfastly, because he's putting people in there who are familiar with that job. And to get back to that person, Chad, I was reading up on him. The reason he stepped down was because supposedly of an incident during COVID-19 in which he arrested a pastor because the pastor would not allow the people to stay at home when they were told to stay at home when they came to church. And there was this whole back and forth about people's religious rights as opposed to what the law was saying. That pastor ended up getting hurt in all of this that went down, and he took it very personal, that he may have become overzealous in listening to the mandates, and so he feels like he's not the right person to be over the drug enforcement.
Some people, and we may not agree or disagree with this. Some people like to stick to the letter of the law. If you look at Trump's border czar,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be no nonsense. He comes out, he has a no nonsense rhetoric, and he comes off no nonsense. And a lot of us, we can't deal with that. A person that just is going to stick to the law, and in this other guy's case, some people don't want to have that issue of having feelings over their job. And it's interesting when you think about some of the nominees, and sometimes you get nominated for something and it don't be about what you really want it for.
Mm-hmm.
And is just like me personally, I think Matt Gaetz ran away. I think Trump gave him a solid. He was able to resign out of the House,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's a private citizen to be able to do what he want to do and grow and mature to whoever he chooses to be,
Mm-hmm.
whether you like Matt Gaetz or not. But you guys, we're gonna wrap this up,
Mm-hmm.
and
I'm asking everybody to at least look at the film The Outlier by Troy Black. It's on YouTube, and it's going to give you an overview of everything we kind of talked about and how it goes back and deals with aspects of the New World Order. And the New World Order found a home in the Democratic Party because they were pretty much under Lyndon Johnson guaranteed the right to keep us voting in a Democratic bloc for up to 200 years. That's what Lyndon Johnson promised the Democratic Party. And what they were not expecting was that we would become not awake, not woke, but aware. Self-awareness is one of the best things you can have in your life. So when we became aware, we understood our role and began to really learn about ourselves, who we are historically. And not all of us are descendants of Africans from Africa. Many of us have families that were here known as indigenous, Choctaw, and Sioux, and whatever. And we're learning about that. We are not negating. I don't ever remember being called African American until Jesse Jackson brought it into being. It wasn't that before. We were Negroes, Negroes and coloreds. But Negro meant black. So Negro meant black. Okay. Um, and the Blackfoot, the Crow, the Shawnee, Chickasaw, the Sioux, they were all melanated, copper colored people. They were here. And then later on, if you could pay $5 and you were coming from a European country and you didn't find anywhere to fit in, you could be an Indian. And they were known as the $5 Indians. I think what we're coming into, no, what I know we're coming into the Great Awakening. We're already in the time of Aquarius. The knowledge is here. We're looking at the truth. Not all of us can handle the truth at the same time, but we will handle the truth, over the next 100 to 200 years. And what we do with it and how we teach our children will be the legacy of humanity in the future. It will no longer just be governed by a few weak people who think it's their place to be the oligarchy. And we will have to learn to work all these things out. That's just where it is. And I thank you for letting me have my opinion.
With that, take care. Everybody have a great, great night. See you guys tomorrow.